my name is Ingrid Frégeau. I'm a
It's
public...
1 more minute. You can start.
Should I start?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Faith. I'm beginning now. So again, I'm Ingrid Frégeau. I'm a public school educator and an artist. My mom was a surrealist painter. Her name was HIAA-Wailoa. And I'm here today to talk about what we owe to Surrealism. So as you can see, the title of the presentation is Surrealism Today. And this presentation is in the form kind of a dialogue where there will be questions, so please do participate. Yes? So, all right, so I'm going to go over these essential questions. How did Surrealism begin? Yeah. Do we see similar conditions right now in 2024? Did both Surrealist manifestos include the visual arts? How does one access the subconscious?
Good question.
What are the Surrealism contribution and legacy to today's art world? Did Surrealism die in 1959? Have our expectations of art changed since 1924? I'm glad you're appreciating these questions. How can one be a surrealist? And what are the surrealism challenges in the age of artificial intelligence? Let's go.
Yes.
So, how did surrealism begin? So, the unprecedented horror of World War I, yeah, the First War, were experienced personally by the young intellectuals who signed the Surrealist Manifesto. They were seeking a revolutionary way to tap into the whole human mind to change the social order. They saw around them as the cause of destruction. So this is the context of the ideas behind surrealism, is witnessing, being involved closely in the destructive effects of war. Okay, so they were educated, creative, and they had read Sigmund Freud. The interpretation of dreams had been translated into French at that time, and so they were highly influenced also by the idea of the subconscious part of our life. So André Breton, the leader of the group, had a medical background. He actually was in psychiatry, and he actually worked closely with victims of the war and how their mind was so shattered by their experience of the war. The goal was no less than to change society. Is it what you intended to do when you did art? This is a serious question I'm asking you. When you did art last time, did you intend on changing social order or society? So it's quiet, she's thinking. Yes, Ken.
Well, I did the painting Defend Democracy, and I was hoping to encourage a certain change in social order.
So your desires, your deep desires, were part of your creativity.
That's a great
and
thing.
your
Great.
inspiration. How about you, Ethel?
Well, in abstraction, it's more like that, but not directly. Just being innovative or going for the new or just pressing the limits is
Visually.
also present. Yes, visually.
Yeah, I'm working on something right now that I think it shows that every generation for thousands of years faces the same issues in different clothing.
So we're still there.
We're still there.
We're still there. All right. We're on the same page. So do we see similar conditions today? So, of course, we don't experience, especially here in Hawaii, World War I, yeah? But there might be some factors, you think about censor, and, that we experience still now today in our society. And that might prevent some of us to express fully our deepest desire. Okay, so next question. Did both Surrealist manifestos include visual arts. All right, so actually, anyone knows the answer?
Yeah,
So,
but you can tell us, but I
so
know.
the first manifesto was purely literary. So the origin of the movement was more like a literature movement than an art movement. But 4 years later, Breton realized that actual imageries and images were also able to unlock what had been hidden away, yeah, in our subconscious, in our mind, and so helping artists to basically bypass this whole logic, attachment to scientific, because of course a society was very attached to rationalism and to science. And we were the heir from the 18th century. And so at that point they were like, well, all this love for science and logic did lead to World War I, therefore, can we just embrace something else? Maybe we'll get a different result. So from 1928, Surrealism was both a literary and an artistic movement. And it became an international movement at that point and grew as a cultural movement because this sort of revolution of taking our inspiration deeper in the human psyche, yeah, and also accepting the part of us that isn't so logical, that might be linked to our passions, our contradictions, and so on. Okay? So
No.
how does, yes, you have a question, yes.
I have a statement.
A statement, yes.
I think that I can understand why you want to label certain years, but that everything is changing all the time. I think about
Of course.
Stravinsky, the Rite of Spring, and the insanity of the world at that time, and
Yes, the insanity
it's
is the
not
right
so
word.
it's not so simple. Now we're living in insanity by this election, which is
So
coming up.
insanity still exists.
Absolutely.
Okay, we're on the same page. I do not go through all the names, all the dates, all the differences between each artist, because each artist is an individual and has its own imagination, its own contradiction, its own emotions, passions, and so on. So it's more like looking at what we have inherited overall since 100 years, from them. Yeah.
These persons were the manifesto writers, but is there a writer that's known as the father of surrealism in writing?
André Breton was the father of Surrealism, but then the initial group, of course, grew internationally with both men, women from different
So he
countries.
was an author and the writer of the manifesto?
He was mainly a writer,
Oh.
yeah, and more like the one that put together those ideas. But it was already boiling. It was already in,
Being discussed.
yes. So, although Surrealism is inseparable from political context in which it was born, Breton was against the use of art for political propaganda, and that's why they dissociated quickly from communism at that time, because they did not want to use art for propaganda. Surrealism was in reaction to censor, and this is an important word because today we do see a lot of manipulation of information happening in our society, and that connects us to this time. Yeah. So Surrealism was in reaction to logic and other forms of control, okay, of communication, not just in writing, but visual as well. So Surrealism aimed at accessing the whole human mind. One way to access all thoughts was to practice automatism, or writing, drawing without logical planning or organizing, to prevent basically censoring yourself. So, because we're very good at hiding our, So the goal for the surrealists at that time is to liberate our thoughts, our language, and our human experience from the oppressive limits of rationalism. And again, it's in the context too of seeing the catastrophe that happened to society at that time. To achieve this liberation of the human mind, surrealists practice free association to produce unconscious artwork, creating automatic paintings. And actually they did more than just visual artwork. They did plays, novels, poems, drawings, creations of all kinds. So did you do that when you created your last artwork? Did you manage to prevent censoring yourself? How did it go?
I always do that.
You always do that? You manage to put others aside?
Yeah, well, I don't do it as much in my portraiture work, but I do it in all my other work.
Okay, all in your other work, but not the portraits. How about you, Ken? Were you thinking about others while you painted?
Other artists?
About others, society, others, and what they would see, what they would understand, what they would think, what they would, that whole like.
I suppose a little, but not completely. I mean, I first had a vision, and I guess as I was doing it, I would consider that briefly, but it wasn't what motivated me.
Okay, because it is difficult to make abstraction of what others think, and especially if you intend on exhibiting publicly your work. We live in society, and we know more than ever that everything we do is photographed and almost instantly published online, and so it holds us constantly accountable, for who we are, what we stand for, what we say, and so it's very difficult in our time to make abstraction of others. We constantly live in our own image projected on us. So this is a big challenge.
But in free association, you wouldn't think about your audience, you
That's
wouldn't
right.
think about the
That's-
message, you wouldn't think about
Right,
the future.
That's right.
You're like, oh.
That's right, and it is the challenge.
Oh,
Are we
oh.
able,
Oh,
100
able to.
years later, to do that?
I'm not a visual artist, but I write, and I've done mainly academic writing, and so I took but I want to be more accessible to a wider audience, and so I took a retreat and consciously tried to do this and say, I'm not going to be bounded by getting it published, I'm not going to be bound by who is going to read it, I'm going to
And
do
if
it
it's gonna
and
sell.
just see what emerges. And then just kind of go there and allow that kind of marginal period, actually. It's
Yeah.
kind of a liminal space,
I like that you say that, marginal, freedom.
And then it's kind of like throwing it up in the air, and then eventually, I'll look at it and say, well, I wonder if there's some sort of order in this.
And how to muster the courage after,
To bring something out of that.
bring it out.
Yeah.
And you were to say
So
something.
I was going to say, this is really a tremendous breakout to reconnect with the ancient indigenous shamanism.
Oh,
And the problem is that, people have taken this right brain thing way too extremely. What's this woman who got locked out of her right brain? It took her 8 years to fight her way back. What did she discover? Her left brain. She didn't even know it existed. As an academic, it meant nothing to her, but as soon as her brain was closed down on one side, she had to enter the other side and explore it.
how did they do that? A lobotomy or something?
She had a stroke.
Oh, she had a stroke and it just snapped that connection?
It didn't snap the connection, but it fried her usual way of looking at things.
Wow, I'm not gonna try that.
No.
Let's not do that.
In the realm of music, it's much different, I think, because as a jazz musician, I try to be surrealistic when I'm playing, but within the certain parameters of creativity, and then I try to move out. We're at a concert next week. We're going to do one piece out of about 6 or 8 that is going to be unpredictable.
Liberating,
Just
liberating.
Yeah, liberating.
Yes, it's very difficult, and I think it is a challenge, and we have to acknowledge it. It is challenging to do abstraction of others and other people's vision and perception. So how to access the subconscious? I think I finished this. The goal
Yeah.
to liberate, yes, all right, next
Yeah.
one. So, what are the Surrealism contributions and legacy to today's art world? So the artist embraced the element of chance, and I'm sure Esso can relate to that, yeah? Bringing together surprising association of images never combined before. So, as in dreams, yeah? The Surrealists did not use abstract because they saw that the appearance of objects, they could, the physical world as it appears, were able to communicate unconscious reality as in dreams. You know, when we dream, we see all kinds of images. We wake up in the morning, it's like, what happened? Yeah? So the result of these combined images is uncanny. It looks real, but it isn't. It is surreal, as in dreams. And so the question here is, do you pay attention to your dreams? Do you take them seriously? When you just wake up, usually you kind of, for a little bit of time, kind of remember, and then, yeah, for most of us, they disappear. And it's very hard to have access to them and
Unless
use.
you train yourself.
Yes, you have to train yourself and take the time to pause and write them down. And so the Surrealists were extremely interested in tapping in the dream world as a source of inspiration. And so to be a Surrealist, you need to pay attention to your dreams. Okay, so did Surrealism die in 1959, as André Breton, the founder, proclaimed? Yeah, so Surrealism legacy is to claim the entire territory and access to human mind when creating, whether communicating in poetry or visually, including the world of dreams, the irrational aspect of the life of the mind, the contradictions, and the unaccepted desires. Yeah, so Surrealism brought avant-garde ideas and techniques that artists are still using today. Art is the product of imagination. The Surrealist aims to free artistic production from rationalism, liberating the artist's imagination ever since. Art became a representation of those free associations and desires. Did you censor yourself when creating? Did you embrace the element of chance? I can tell you that Ethel does embrace the element of chance. Of course, not all artists are practicing these strategies to create. Yeah. So, but the Surrealists certainly opened that door wide open to us. And nowadays, if you do it, people will not say, well, are you crazy? Yeah? And so it did indeed liberate artists to create a different kind of art that would embrace all these desires, these contradictions, these passions, and, random selection of objects, colors, shapes, and so on. So in 2024, Surrealism is alive, yeah, and celebrated and still practiced internationally. Actually, there's Surrealist artists in Japan, I found out as I was researching. There's Surrealists because we tend to think about Mexico and, Belgium and France and United States, but actually there are Surrealist artists currently, contemporary artists everywhere in the world. And it's not just the art movement, it's more like a cultural movement that really attempts to give us back our entire self. As a teacher, they always say, teach the whole child, teach the whole child. Well, here is let the artists use all of the artists, to create. So I've been looking for a definition for censor because we do read quite a bit about that as books are disappearing from shelves, in the nation. And the censor synonyms: condemnation, reprimand, rebuke, criticism, denunciation, reproach, and so on. Do you do that to yourself? do you criticize your own art?
Well, not criticize, but did you censor yourself when creating? Because here, when we enter shows here, it says that we can't show nudity or offensive things about religion or politics.
So?
And so we have to consider, if we want our painting or object to be accepted, we have to consider those things, because otherwise it'll just be rejected.
But you remember that those artists exhibited in different spaces where they were not restricted
Right,
and
right.
restrained by
Right,
those rules.
and so there are different
Yes.
spaces here too where we
Yes.
can show those kind of
Those
things.
are all
But at
choices we
this,
make.
at this particular place,
Yes.
because it's a state facility,
Yes.
it has to be tastefully done.
Although we've had a breakthrough
There
right
are
here.
rules.
Yes, we've had, this exhibit has made a few breakthroughs.
So there are rules, yeah, there are rules. And so unless you break from those venues, then you have to go by those rules. But it's good to be aware of them.
And
Yeah?
push the envelope.
Yeah, we
Like
have
that's
to
what-
be aware of
That's
this
right.
situation. This is a 2024 artwork that is for sale right now. It is by Isaac Crespo, The Sacrifice of the Favorite Hand Cuban Surrealist. And so there are a lot of wonderful articles right now because there are art exhibitions everywhere, in Paris, in New York, and everywhere there are surrealist art exhibitions. The list is very long, but it's exciting to also meet the contemporary artists, and we do have the exhibition here at the Wailoa. Those are contemporary artists, but it's everywhere right now. It's a good time if you're interested, yeah? So next question, have our expectations of art changed since 1924? Okay, so is the focus on dreams, psychoanalysis, and fantastic imagery still providing inspiration to artists today? Yeah? Science has proven, and I read a really cool article about that, guys. Okay, science has proven since the founders of Surrealism the strong link between sleep and creativity. Oh. So not so revolutionary anymore, yeah? That not only visual artists use dreams, but also composers, yeah? And scientists. We do problem solving of all kinds while we sleep. And so we have accepted this since then, yeah? So we do expect dreams to help us express our fears and desires suppressed during the day. We all understand better the human mind than in 1924. So, you know, as always when teaching art history, we have to put ourselves back in the context of the time, yeah? Most art movements were in reaction to something that preceded them, yeah? And so that's how they reacted and needed to bring a new formula, a new solution. And so, I can't say we have resolved all the problems that they were facing because we mentioned censor still exists, yeah? We don't laugh at dreams anymore. When people shares a dream and talk about it, we don't go, ha. There's no attitude about it anymore. We all know it's part of our human life. So, how can one be a surrealist, in case you're interested? Yeah? So, tap in your unconscious mind, your dreams, your deep desires as a source of inspiration. Embrace chance in creative games, such as collaboration art, yeah? And we have collaboration art too in Hawaii, yeah? Create a cadavre exquis, or exquisite corpse, like we have here in the Fontaine room, by drawing with some friends. Bring random found objects together in one new object. Draw in an automatic way without planning, yes, thinking or restricting yourself. And do art without thinking of others' opinion or social pressure. And we just said it's not all that easy, yeah? It would be a marginal experience. And I like that word, Yes. I live in the public eye all the time as an educator. I work in a public school. I'm surrounded by thousands of people daily, and I have to answer to teachers, administrators, and students. And so I know what it is to constantly pay attention to what I say, how I say it. Yes, this is our world. Yes, so what are the surrealism challenges in the age of artificial intelligence? So AI combines human-made elements found online, but does AI dream?
Yeah.
What does AI desire? Is AI feeling repressed by rational thinking in society? Does AI need to feel free or liberated? I am afraid that AI isn't human, isn't an artist either. Human condition belongs to mortals. We are the only ones affected by war, by fear, by love, by dreams. I am mortal, therefore I am an artist. Liberation is never obsolete. So it goes for surrealism.
Oh, wonderful.
That's good.
So I collected just a few quotes, okay, because I thought it's interesting still to kind of go back and forth between the founders' mode of thinking and us, to see if we can still relate. So painting is not for me either decorative amusement or the plastic invention of felt reality. It must be every time invention, discovery, revelation. Max Ernst. The mind loves the unknown. It loves images whose meaning is unknown, since the meaning of the mind itself is unknown. Yeah, René Magritte from Belgium. And the last one is from Breton. Surrealism, pure psychic automatism by which it is intended to express, whether verbally or in writing or in any other way, the real process of thought. Thoughts, dictation, free from any control by the reason, independent of any aesthetic or moral preoccupation. We said it depends on the venue, and it depends if we can hide in a little marginal corner sometimes to forget people. Yes? And so I added a few sources online because right now you can find the list of exhibitions today, and so this is kind of cool to find all these articles right now that might, I don't know, if you are having a trip somewhere, you may want to explore these. Yeah, all the exhibitions happening right now, because we live in this world. There's all these exhibitions everywhere. So take a look online, and there's the calendar. Yeah, so you can see, and those are all. You see the year 2024, and so I invite you to go explore because there's all these exhibitions happening right now.
Including one right here.
Yes, including one right here for one more week. So surrealism is very much alive.
Yeah.
Wonderful, Ingrid. I would never know you're a teacher.
I'm sorry, I hope I did not bore you.
Not at all.
So I thought that having essential questions to guide our own thinking, because one cannot answer really definitely those answers. There are constantly open-ended questions, and they will evolve constantly. And I'm sure our relationship to surrealism, to censor, to dreams will constantly evolve. The research that was done about creativity and sleep was done at Harvard. And so if you Google a little bit, and it's recent, and so I wish André Breton would be here, and we could invite him to find out about scientific proof that we need to sleep and tap into our dreams to resolve problems and be more creative. So that's it, you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.